investment per piece of equipment. We know generally what is required for it, and then we'll review that with the customer themselves to make sure that their agreement. We create our daily tours, monthly, and go from there. From that, we create our process. So this is the actual workflow that we use on the site. So once we actually have the procedure, we have the assets, we run through how do we do work. So first we get a management team. They review all the PMs that are on the schedule for that month. They'll bring in the vendors that we need. We'll schedule them with access, make sure everyone's squared away. They'll even do a gut check on some of the procedures to make sure that they're up to par. We're not missing any steps on them. They'll pull a sample size out of it. And then that work gets distributed to the actual crew. And like I said, with the mobile application, it's great. They have all the information right in front of their hands. As they're going through the work, they can create additional tickets if they find something wrong as they're going their tours. They can create corrective tickets, which are right there. They can go through procedure corrections, like, hey, this says it needs to be lubricated every 6 months. It really should be every 3. We'll go through, verify that, and change our procedures based on that. We get immediate feedback. And finally, they'll go through and keep a track of what parts, tools, materials are using so that we're not going to have to constantly check our inventory. We know what we need, we know what we have, and we're never going to be at a lack for, say, a filter. We know when we're getting low on that, which is great. That all gets completed, trended, and analyzed by our management team, by our shift leads management, and then we do actually monthly reporting to our customer. So to create those reports, we go through key performance indicators. So a key performance indicators is basically your target areas. So these are decided upon by the contract, by the customer, or by our industry best standards, or how we want to actually complete this work. It's kind of like our own report card. So it's kind of our response time, our completion rates, our completion time on service calls, how quickly we're actually be able to close it out and repair a problem, our uptime for equipment. We want to make sure that critical equipment's up above 95% of the time. The only time it's ever down is for maintenance, and that's following our schedule. So this is a custom, again, per the facility. This is actually our WHS Mark Center's site. And then from that, like I said, we can pull those indicators and put them up on our summary dashboard, and this can be customized per individual user. So technician can see something in the customer and can go pretty much flowing however you want to do it. Our reporting metrics, this is what we actually get with our customer then on a monthly basis and run through these same things. So this is one I developed for Social Security, shows our monthly completion rate year over year, shows our corrective type of corrective maintenance, what the problem causes were that we found, and then what the resolution type. This is very handy for figuring out if we have a larger issue than just a single event. For this one in particular, we found out we had a lot of minor door things coming up. It was about 5 years into the facility, finding minor dings or stoppers being missing and things like that. So we had to go through and we said, hey, let's put a door PM in there. So we actually created a maintenance procedure to go through and do some verification. So we stopped having corrective maintenance issues and more preventative. Once we got our process established, we jump into our building operations center. This is the life and blood of a facility. So everything is controlled out of this hub. Reason being is this is where all the information is. We have our building automation system, which you can see current up-to-date information on all the equipment. We have our maintenance management ticket system, which is like the CMMS, where they can distribute work orders and look at live data there. We have our life safety systems and notifier. Usually it's right next to the security operations center as well, so they know what's going on around the facility. Customer assistance, and then at the end, energy management, which I want to get into as well. So energy analysis, not required on every single one of our job sites, but we do have the capability for every job site. Even if a facility is rather older and doesn't have the metering capabilities on its actual equipment, we can actually do this based on the utility bills that we get from in there. So on the left, or your right-hand side, you can see electrical and natural gas from one of our facilities. So what we've done here is we actually pulled the utility bill information, and we're trending year over year based on our usage data from that, and we compare it to the design standard of the facility and the Energy Star lead rating of the facility as well. So we can see that from this trend, we're operating well underneath the Energy Star standard, the design standard. We're well within our limits for our lead facility. On the left-hand side here is Social Security Administration. What we use here is a control chart. And the reason we use that is it shows our average actually going through it and our control limits, which are plus or minus 3 standard deviations. So as long as we're within those limits, we can confidently say we're running at a good capability. The other thing we look at is the trend. If it's going above or below the mean, inconsistently or starting to trend towards a control limit, we know we might have a problem. But for this one, we can explain it. This is power usage effectiveness. It's the total facility power divided by the IT load on the facility. So for a data center, I mean, ideal in a kind of like a vacuum mentality would be 1, because that means 100% of the power is going to your data center. But with cooling requirements, employees and operations, never gonna get towards that. So anything under 2 is actually very good by energy standards. It's kind of the written rule there. But you can see here, we actually trended up and started dipping down. The reason behind that is during the summer months, we run our cooling towers more, we run our chillers more, there's a lot more cooling demand. So we see our energy requirement go up. And then once we get back into the cooling in the later months, when it's get free cooling from outside, we can actually dip back down. So for being a 300,000 square foot data center, our current PUE being 1.46, pretty good for a data center that size. And last but not least, we'll hit on is our training. So we have our process, procedure, we have our analysis all completed, we have our customer involved. Now I want to focus on our employees. We want to make sure that we have highly trained employees responding to situations. So this is created for 2 reasons. One is to show employees how they can advance, give them what training they want to develop themselves, what training that we will authorize and pay for them to go through, because we want great employees as well. We want people who are engaged, who want to learn, who want to advance themselves, and we highly value promoting from within. So this gives them an avenue to better themselves and know what is expected of them. Additionally, it's a benefit to the customer because they get the highly trained technicians on site, which increases their reliability for their data center or whatever project we're working on. So it's a benefit all around. We can customize this per job site. We get requirements per contract for what they're looking for. Underground storage tanks is a great training that we usually always have required in the actual contract because they want someone to be able to respond, spills, things like that, or what level of technician they want. So a lot of times we'll say we need journeyman electrician and journeyman HVAC, so we can set that minimum requirement here as well. So it's kind of an ongoing living document per facility. But yeah, I mean, in a nutshell, I mean, that's kind of how we go through each one for a general one. To give another example, at Wiesbaden right now, we just kicked off our training matrix. So you can see it's a little bit more customized. Every single item being accounted for. They have the up-to-date tracker on the side. It's still in development. I think they had a little bit of setback there from the original contract kickoff. But you can see every single line item being tracked in this system. And then last but not least, last thing I'd like to touch on is that this system can be catered for secure sites. So the one thing you can see on the side here is this site in Germany is actually a secure facility. So like I mentioned in the other room, we've separated it by individual building and security requirements. And right now what we're doing is we're getting with each security core of each facility and getting the approvals to start implementing this process and everything on it. So we can start tracking equipment and having that information. If required, we can do an off-net system, which is just local on the facility and doesn't communicate with the internet or anything like that. And you can still have the mobile application via a docking station. So we can cater it to individual needs. Right now, what you're seeing is some corrective and some general PMs that we have without a lot of the asset information. It's just numbers on the side, so it keeps it secure. But at least you can start tracking those systems as well. So our goal at the end is seamless transitions to make sure all operations are going through and data collection, that we have more information. The more information that we have, the better we can be of service to our customers. Any questions?
So all these sensors and stuff, they have to be installed in the system?
So for this one or for the building automation? So for this actually right here, it's all developed. We implement it based off of, for the SSA, the Colby data. So we actually pulled it out of the maintenance system that was on site and implemented it into IMMS. So we did a physical site walk to make sure all the equipment was there and did eye checks, but we actually were able to import all the information via the Colby data. At Wiesbaden, we will have to go in because there wasn't that information. So we had to walk through and say, oh, we have this chiller, we have this chiller, we have air handler, and we had to create those profiles one by one in the system. But luckily, we have a lot of experience with the different maintenance procedures, and we can pull in the general schedule information and procedures and tie it to those assets then. But yeah, you're absolutely right. Field verification, you have to walk through and see every single asset, every single sensor. That's why it took us about 3 months when we took over SSA, even though it was a brand new facility.
And it's all Wi-Fi?
It is on Wi-Fi. Listen, so it has the capability to be on Wi-Fi, or for secure sites, we can take it off of it. Which is nice. I mean, so this is the demo data right now, but I can actually log in and see what's live on my facility in Urbana, Maryland right now. That's what I was saying. If he ever got the desire to wake up in the middle of the night and look on his facility, he could, but not that anyone should do that. Yeah, that's all I got.
Very good.
Appreciate the time.
That's a lot.
Yeah, I know it's a lot of information, so if you're hanging around, you got any other questions, just come find me.